Good afternoon, this is The Social on talkSPORT 2. I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and for the next few hours, I'm back alongside Kweku Afari. The pair of us are going to unpack an eventful week of European football. Both Manchester United and Spurs head into the second leg of their UEFA Europa League ties with everything still to play for. Lyon have United keeper Andre Onana to thank for keeping their hopes alive in the tie after his two errors gifted the French side their goals. We're going to get stuck into the weekend's Premier League action with our three to watch, kicking off at the Etihad, where Manchester City are in must-win territory against Crystal Palace. Elsewhere, should Arsenal make 11 changes against Brentford with their second leg against Real Madrid just around the corner? And we're going to round things off at St James's Park, where Newcastle United can move a step closer to Champions League football with a win over Manchester United. Plus, we'll discuss Mo Salah's new deal and if it installs Liverpool as favourites for the Premier League next season. And there's Twitter Corner to come too. Let's do it. It's The Social on talkSPORT 2.
The talkSPORT 2 Social.
First up, though, here are some of your headlines. England's all-time leading wicket-taker, James Anderson, will be knighted for services to cricket.
An absolute disgrace.
Producer Jeremy doesn't think he should, in former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's honours list. The 42-year-old Lancashire fast bowler claimed 704 test dismissals in an international career that spanned more than 2 decades. Anderson, who received an OBE from the Prince of Wales in 2016, is regarded as one of the greatest players in the history of the game. Liverpool have received a major boost with Mo Salah signing a new 2-year contract. The Egyptian international forward has ended speculation about his future, which had been rumbling on all season, with his deal due to expire in the summer. Meanwhile, talkSPORT understands captain Virgil van Dijk is close to extending his stay at the club as well. Nottingham Forest have slapped a £100 million price tag on Manchester City target Morgan Gibbs-White, talkSPORT understands. Gibbs-White is among City's potential options to replace the departing Kevin De Bruyne, but Forest value the England international in the same bracket as what City spent on Jack Grealish. It's not just Anthony Gordon with fitness concerns ahead of the weekend. Manager Eddie Howe has been unwell this week, meaning Jason Tindall took this morning's press briefing. He reckons the boss will be back in time for Sunday's game with Manchester United, and Anthony Gordon's been recovering from a hip injury. Kweku, good to see you, my man.
How
How's
you doing,
it going?
brother? I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Look, let's dive straight into the Europa League stuff because there's so much to unpack.
Well, you don't want to talk about Jamie Anderson getting the knighthood, no?
I mean, that sparked a massive debate in the office, didn't
Absolute
it?
disgrace.
Producer Jeremy not happy. I mean, I got to be honest, like, I don't know enough about cricket to make a serious judgment on this, but I don't know.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean, we're devaluing these things, aren't we?
Yeah,
Giving
we
them
are.
out like sweets at the moment.
We are. Well, that's what Onana's doing in terms of giving away goals.
Yeah.
Giving out like sweets,
Oh,
mate.
What a segue. Let's talk about Manchester United then, because, of course, they actually put in an okay display in a lot of ways away at Lyon. But Andre Onana, who was the subject of some criticism from Nemanja Matic, has essentially cost them and cost them quite dearly. First of all, what did you make of that whole thing in the lead up to it? Like, he spoke out about Lyon, sort of criticised their level. Nemanja Matic comes out swinging, and in the end, Nemanja Matic is the one smiling while Andre Onana's got egg on his face.
So people always ask, why is it the media feels so devious? Why is it they're always digging for stories? And this is the reason you get narratives and you get us talking about it on shows. Because Onana's quotes was to the written press. So it's not recorded anyway. You can't watch the videos, to the PA. And then the same journalist who asked that question to Onana, and we don't know the tone in which he answered that question, so there's an added bit of context that's been removed. That same journalist then threw the question or threw the response to Nemanja Matic in the press conference and then got that response from Matic. So there was a bit of stirring going on. We don't know how Onana answered it, but if you're Andre Onana and you're in that position, you've been that poor for Manchester United, you cannot come out talking like that because you haven't done anything to warrant that amount of confidence, warrant that level of authority to speak on any other football club apart from your own. And so Matic responded to the quote. Of course, he doesn't know how Onana said it, and he's pretty forthright with it. He's serving. He doesn't care.
But the way he said it suggested that was his feeling of Onana generally.
Generally,
it wasn't something that he kind of concocted up in response. He literally must be watching Andre Onana on a weekly basis and just shaking his head at him.
Yeah, because it was locked and loaded. It was ready. He said we're one of the worst goalkeepers in Manchester United history, and he listened to other great goalkeepers and said, "Yeah, maybe I'd listen, but if it's coming from you, then you need to be quiet." Essentially, it was great. And going into the game against Lyon, myself and some Manchester United fans were talking about it and saying, whatever happens in this game, Man United could lose, but Onana can't make a mistake. And for him to be at fault for both of the goals, I'm sorry, even though we saw him at Inter Milan be a great goalkeeper, he's one of the best players in the Champions League, Man United have now got to make a decision. He has to go. It's akin to the Karius mistake in the Champions League final. I know the stakes are way lower, but when you've made a mistake on such a massive stage and you've been so forthright and vocal, I think Man United have got to get rid of him in the summer.
And if you look at Manchester United's European campaigns in recent seasons, that there's so many of these Andre Onana mistakes. It's not a one-off. This wasn't Andre Onana having a bad night. You know, when a goalkeeper is performing at an extremely high level regularly, you can kind of forgive them when they make an error or two. But this is an ongoing theme with Andre Onana. He plays with this confidence in terms of the risks he takes at times. And I just don't know where it comes from because his level is not there. It might have been in previous years. He was a very good goalkeeper for Inter, as you pointed it out. But those errors were always just underneath the surface. They were always going to come through at some point. And you know, he's costing Manchester United really, really dearly. But they are in a decent position going into the second leg. Let's not pretend that they're not. You know, they've gone away from home. They've got a draw in a game that, quite frankly, I expected them to lose. So they go back to Old Trafford simply needing to beat Lyon to progress.
There's so many positives to take out of that game for Manchester United. And like we mentioned, that Onana, or those two Onana mistakes, has put a dampener on it. Because if you look at Lenioro, had a really good game, probably his best game in the United shirt. Bruno Fernandes, again, another great performance, got the assist for the Zirkzee goal. Zirkzee is now scoring goals and playing with confidence. You look at Kobe Mainoo, who's made his return. Mason Mount he's finding a place in his team. There were so many positives, just apart from the result. But they go back to Old Trafford and they're favourites. I like some of Lyon's players, but I think that when it comes down to it, this Manchester United side has shown in the last 2 or 3 years that despite the fact that they're a poor side, they can get results in cup competitions, whether it's the Carabao Cup 2 years ago, the FA Cup last year. I think they should be favourites to the Europa League this year, and I think they'll do the job against Lyon next week.
Yeah, I'm quite confident that they'll make it through as well. You should never really be too confident about this Manchester United side, but you know, you do make them favourites. Lyon have not been the French sort of footballing superpower that they were in years gone by. I was thinking about it yesterday in the lead up to the game. Do you remember the days of like Juninho in midfield banging in free kicks from 35 yards out? Team. They did indeed.
In terms of that, just quickly, obviously Arsenal have been in the Champions League for the last couple of years, but in the years that you were in the Europa League, what is it that your team might be the prohibitive favourite? They might have better players, but in the Europa League, it seems like these teams on the continent seem to find a way. Normally Spanish teams. Why is it that English teams don't always find a way to win the Europa League, despite the fact that they're normally the favourites of the competition?
I think it's a lot to do with the way that we view the competition.
Okay.
Here in the UK, I think we look at it as a kind of second-rate European trophy, which I guess in theory it is. But I think if you speak to people on the continent, they really kind of do value it a lot more. Like you think about how many times Seville won it, for example, under Unai Emery. That was enough to mask over some really disappointing seasons domestically. Whereas in the UK, I think more than in other places, I think we look at the domestic results and we hold that up as the kind of be-all and end-all. And anything you can achieve on the continent is a bonus. Whereas in Spain, Italy, France, Germany, you look at European success actually as the pinnacle. Okay. I really do think it's a mindset thing. I think we look at it differently. Elsewhere, Spurs have got a somewhat trickier assignment in their return leg. They have to go to Frankfurt. Really ought to have won the game yesterday. Should we hear from Ange Postecoglou with regards to what he saw from his side?
Yeah, I thought the performance in general was really, really good by the boys. We obviously conceded early, which wasn't ideal, and it was a fair strike by the lad. But I thought our response to that was really good. We stayed in control. We scored a good equaliser, and we made them work hard in the first half. So we kind of knew that second half, with our ability to break teams open, we'd put them under pressure, and it's exactly what happened. And the boys did everything right. I can't ask any more. I mean, I think we've hit the crossbar 3 times. The keepers pulled off some amazing saves, and Sofno had a couple of good opportunities as well. So on any other night, we'd have a comfortable victory. But I still think if we can perform like that over there, and there's no reason why we can't, then we'll still give ourselves a good chance.
As much as I'd love to have a pop at Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham, Kweku, they did actually play quite well last night.
They did. They, like you mentioned, went behind, and again, it's easy, especially when fans are expecting you to capitulate, for you to capitulate. But the fact they got back into the game against a Frankfurt team who were better than them, speaks to the last remaining resilience that there is left at the Spurs team. It's a tough tie away from home next week, but I think for most fans, they were looking at Ekitike. He's a man that is on the radar of a lot of teams that are looking for a striker. He took his goal really, really well, celebrated like Thierry Henry on his knees in North London. Is that a sign of things to come? Is he a player that's going to be leading the line for Arsenal next season? I think he's a very good striker, and I think teams are trying to avoid the Alexander Isak conundrum where before he went to Newcastle, a lot of people knew that he was a good player, but no one really took the plunge, and then he went on to become what he's become. I think Ekitike at 22 years old is ready to take that next step, as whether any team's ready to take the gamble, because he's not the most prolific striker yet, but he's still developing. But you can definitely see there's talent there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about strikers from an Arsenal perspective, right, for a while. And I did a really, like, you might call it sad exercise where I went through them all sad, statistically. Mate. Gyökeres, Sesko, Ekitike, Isak, I included him in there because for me, he's kind of the benchmark at the moment. And although you could say that Sesko and Gyökeres would be maybe preferred options for Arsenal, when you look at what Ekitike is good at versus what Isak's good at, there's a lot of comparisons you can make stylistically. And the eye test last night kind of confirmed that for me. At times he looks amazing, and at times he looks like he's a little bit short of it. And that's going to happen with a young developing player, I think. But, you know, on Spurs, listen, they've been dreadful all season, if we're being honest. They've had flashes in which you've seen them and you've gone, you know, good performance, good attacking display. But generally, they've been really vulnerable defensively and not potent enough in attack. Last night was a bit different, though. I don't want to sit here and stick the boot in on them based on last night's performance, because I think on any other night they win that game comfortably by 2-3 goals, given the chances they created. So this is one of the rare occasions where I'm going to give Ange Postecoglou a bit of a pass.
Well, he needs it. He needs it. If he can't coach his way through these games, then you're not going to be Spurs manager for the long run. Next week is the game to save his job. And if they go out against Frankfurt, we all know that he won't be the Spurs manager next season. So, yeah, he coached his butt off and he got a decent result, but they're going to Frankfurt and they're a good team. They're a good team. I know, obviously, they lost a couple of players in January, but they're a team that are doing well in the Bundesliga, and people expected Spurs to lose last night. They got a draw. Now can they convert that into a win next week? Because, like I say, Ange needs it for his future at the club.
He does indeed. Just very quickly before we break, Kweku, your boys away in Poland, Legia Warsaw, decent result?
Wait,
is that how you feel about that competition? Like, he doesn't even want to talk about his own team have gone away and won in Europe by 3-0, and he's not even interested.
So let me be frankly honest with you. I was here producing for talkSPORT. I was producing the Manchester United game, and I had eyes on the Spurs game, obviously eyes on the Man United game, and the Chelsea game was before we went on air, but I wasn't taking it in like I take it in any other Chelsea game. I honestly don't care about that competition. Happy for Tyreek George, happy that we won comfortably, happy that we're going to go through to the next round, but we're on a hiding to nothing in this competition. We win it, everyone's like, yeah, but you spent £1.6 billion on your squad. We don't win it, it's the biggest embarrassment in Chelsea history. So yeah, wake me up when we won it.
Yeah, I'm just winding you up. I get you. I probably wouldn't tune into those games either. You are listening to the talkSPORT 2 Social with William Hill, 18 plus, begambleaware.org. After the break, we're going to discuss the big news that Mo Salah will be staying at Liverpool, and it looks like Virgil van Dijk will be too.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.